Time travel has fascinated humanity for generations. At its core, the idea is deeply human, the desire to revisit the past, to correct mistakes, or to glimpse what lies ahead. Yet, when time travel is explored more seriously, it becomes unstable, complex, and often dangerous. Two films, released nearly 30 years apart, explore this idea from very different angles. Back to the Future presents time travel as playful and personal. Interstellar treats it as cosmic, emotional, and grounded in real physics. Together, they reveal both the appeal of time travel and its most serious pitfalls. In Back to the Future, released in 1985, time travel is introduced through wonder and excitement. Marty McFly does not travel through time to study physics or explore the universe. He does it by accident. A malfunctioning DeLorean, powered by plutonium, sends him 30 years into the past. At first, the consequences seem small: a missed meeting, an awkward interaction. But the film quickly reveals a core idea that underpins almost all time travel stories. Small changes can have enormous consequences. Marty's interference in his parents' first meeting threatens his own existence. This is shown visually as he begins to fade from a photograph. It is a simple metaphor, but a powerful one. Change the past and the future becomes unstable. From a scientific perspective, this highlights one of the greatest pitfalls of time travel: causality. In physics, cause must precede effect. Back to the Future ignores this constraint for the sake of storytelling. Marty can alter events, repair the timeline, and return home with minimal lasting damage. But real physics offers no such safety net. If time were altered in this way, there is no guarantee it could ever be restored. The film also assumes a single fragile timeline. One wrong move and everything collapses. This idea works dramatically, but it raises troubling questions. If the timeline is so easily broken, how could time travel ever be survivable? Interstellar, released in 2014, approaches time from an entirely different direction. Here, time travel is not achieved through machines or accidents. It emerges naturally from the structure of the universe itself. The film is grounded in Einstein's theory of relativity, specifically time dilation. As objects move faster or experience stronger gravity, time slows down relative to those far away. This is not science fiction, it is experimentally proven physics. In one of the film's most famous scenes, astronauts land on a planet, orbiting close to a supermassive black hole. For every hour they spend on the planet, 7 years pass on Earth. When they return to their ship, they discover that decades have passed. Unlike Back to the Future, there is no undo button, no second chance. The damage is permanent. This illustrates one of the most realistic pitfalls of time manipulation: time asymmetry. You may experience time differently, but the universe does not slow down with you. Interstellar also explores time as a physical dimension, not something you move through freely, but something you are bound to. The emotional weight of this is central to the story. A father leaves his daughter behind, knowing he will return older than her, or possibly not return at all. In scientific terms, this reflects a harsh truth. Even if time travel is possible, it may come at unbearable human cost. Interstellar does eventually introduce more speculative ideas: higher dimensions, gravitational communication across time, but it maintains a key principle: the past is not freely changeable. Information can be passed, but causality remains intact. This avoids the paradoxes seen in simpler time travel stories. No erased timelines, no collapsing realities, just consequences. Together, Back to the Future and Interstellar represent two ends of the time travel spectrum. One treats time as a playground, the other treats it as a force of nature. Both are compelling, but only one reflects how unforgiving time may truly be. Donnie Darko is not a film about time travel in the traditional sense. There is no machine, no portal, no deliberate decision to move backward or forward through time. Instead, the film presents time as something fractured, unstable, and deeply psychological. From the opening moments, Donnie is displaced. He sleepwalks out of his house moments before a jet engine crashes into his bedroom. This event should kill him. The film makes it clear that, on some level, it already has. What follows is not a journey through time, but a countdown. 28 days, 6 hours, 42 minutes, 12 seconds. This structure reflects a closed time loop, a concept known in physics as a closed time-like curve. In theory, these curves allow space-time to fold back on itself. An effect becomes its own cause. In Donnie Darko, the universe appears to split. A tangent universe branches off from the primary timeline. This universe is unstable. It cannot persist. Its sole purpose is to correct itself. Donnie is positioned as what the film calls the living receiver. He becomes aware that time is malfunctioning, that events are being nudged toward a specific outcome. This is shown visually through liquid spears emerging from people's chests. Paths they have not yet chosen, but will. Scientifically, this touches on determinism, the idea that all events are fixed by prior conditions. If time is deterministic, then free will may be an illusion. Donnie struggles with this. If the future is already written, does choice matter? The film's most disturbing implication is that the universe demands sacrifice. To restore stability, Donnie must die, not as punishment, but as correction. When he sends the jet engine back through the wormhole, time collapses back into its original state. Everyone else survives. Only Donnie retains awareness. This resolves the paradox cleanly. The past is not changed. It is restored. Unlike many time travel stories, Donnie Darko avoids infinite loops and branching chaos. There is only one acceptable outcome. The universe enforces it. From a scientific standpoint, this aligns with the Novikov self-consistency principle. If time travel exists, only events that are internally consistent can occur. No contradictions, no grandfather paradox. Donnie's death is both the problem and the solution. The pitfall Donnie Darko exposes is perhaps the darkest of all. If time can correct itself, then human suffering may be irrelevant. The universe does not care about fairness, only stability. Time, in this story, is not something to be conquered. It is something that demands obedience. If Donnie Darko presents time as something that quietly corrects itself, then the Terminator presents time as something locked in violent contradiction. Released in 1984, the Terminator is built entirely around a single question. Can the future be changed? A machine from a devastated future is sent back in time to assassinate Sarah Connor before she can give birth to John Connor, the future leader of the human resistance. On its surface, this is a clean and terrifying premise. Kill the mother, erase the saviour, prevent the war. But almost immediately, the logic of time begins to unravel. Kyle Reese, the soldier sent back to protect Sarah, reveals that John Connor himself selected him for the mission. John knows Reese will die. He knows the mission is impossible, and yet he sends him anyway. As the film progresses, it becomes clear why. Kyle Reese is John Connor's father. John exists only because the future sent someone back to create him. There is no original timeline where John was conceived naturally. There is no first version of events. John Connor is the product of a causal loop. In physics and philosophy, this is known as the bootstrap paradox. An object or piece of information exists without ever being created. It simply loops. The Terminator does not treat this as a flaw in its logic. It treats it as fate. Every attempt to stop the future is what brings it into existence. Sarah Connor's transformation is central to this idea. She begins the film as an ordinary woman, unaware, unprepared. By the end, she has become the very person the future required her to be. Her strength is not self-discovered. It is imposed by knowledge of what must happen. This creates a disturbing implication. If the future already exists, then the present is simply performing it. From a scientific perspective, this challenges classical causality. In normal physics, causes precede effects. In the Terminator, the effect creates its own cause. The war creates John. John creates the resistance. The resistance creates the war. The pitfall exposed here is not just paradox. It is the loss of agency. Characters believe they are making choices, but every choice simply locks the loop tighter. This idea is taken to its most extreme and unsettling conclusion in Predestination. Released in 2014 and based on a short story by Robert Heinlein, Predestination strips time travel of spectacle. There is no future war, no machines, no world-ending stakes. Instead, the conflict is entirely internal. The film follows a temporal agent tasked with preventing crimes before they occur. As the narrative unfolds, it becomes clear that the agent, the villain, and the victim are all the same person. At different points in time, the protagonist recruits themselves, manipulates themselves, betrays themselves, and ultimately becomes their own creator. This is the bootstrap paradox with no external anchor. A human being with no origin outside the loop. No beginning, no end. From a scientific and philosophical standpoint, this is deeply unsettling. Identity normally relies on continuity. A past that leads to a present that leads to a future. In Predestination, identity is circular. The character exists because they already existed. The film aligns closely with the Novikov self-consistency principle. If time travel exists, then history must be internally consistent. No contradictions are allowed. Only events that already account for themselves. Where the Terminator frames this as tragic inevitability, Predestination frames it as existential horror. There is no enemy to fight, no system to overthrow, only the slow realization that free will may be an illusion. Every attempt to escape the loop reinforces it. Every effort to assert control becomes evidence that control never existed. The shared pitfall revealed by both films is stark. If time travel is possible, it may not allow change at all. It may only allow completion. The future does not bend. It recruits. In these stories, time is not a road that can be rewritten. It is a closed circuit. And once you are part of it, there is no exit. By this point, time travel has stopped being a novelty. It has stopped being an adventure. and it has stopped being a puzzle that can be solved with clever logic. What remains is something far more uncomfortable: the philosophical and ethical cost of interfering with time. Nearly every serious time travel story eventually arrives at the same crossroads. If we can move through time, should we? And more importantly, are we ever truly in control when we do? At a philosophical level, time travel forces us to confront the nature of time itself. Is time something that flows, like a river? Or is it something fixed, like a landscape that already exists in its entirety? In physics, this question appears in the form of the block universe. According to this view, past, present, and future all coexist. We experience time sequentially, but the universe does not. If this is true, then time travel does not change history. It merely reveals it. This idea aligns closely with many of the stories we have explored. In Donnie Darko, the universe corrects itself. In The Terminator, the future creates the past. In Predestination, identity collapses into a closed loop. None of these stories allow for true alteration. They allow only fulfillment. This raises a deeply unsettling ethical question. If the timeline is fixed, then suffering is not an accident. It is a requirement. Characters who understand the future are often forced to allow tragedy to occur. Not because they want to, but because intervening would break the structure of reality itself. Is it ethical to let harm happen if preventing it risks collapsing the universe? Time travel reframes moral responsibility. In a linear world, we are judged by outcomes. In a deterministic time travel world, outcomes are already decided. Choice becomes performance. Responsibility becomes ambiguous. Another philosophical fault line appears when we consider free will. If the future already exists, are our decisions meaningful? Many time travel narratives suggest a disturbing answer. You feel free. You deliberate. You choose. But the choice you make is the only one you ever could have made. This is not freedom. It is inevitability wearing the mask of choice. Some stories attempt to escape this by introducing branching timelines. In this model, changing the past does not overwrite history. It creates a new branch. A parallel universe where different outcomes unfold. On the surface, this seems ethically safer. You can save someone without erasing yourself. You can prevent a disaster without paradox. But this model carries its own moral weight. If every choice creates a new universe, then time travel becomes an act of cosmic multiplication. For every tragedy you prevent, countless others still occur elsewhere. Have you saved a life? Or merely relocated the suffering? There is also the ethical question of knowledge. Knowing the future is a form of power, and power alters behaviour. Time travellers often become manipulators, even when their intentions are good. When you know what will happen, persuasion becomes coercion. Consent becomes questionable. Relationships become asymmetrical. This is one of the quiet ethical horrors of time travel. You are never meeting people as equals. You are meeting them as outcomes. Time travel also collapses accountability. If a catastrophe is inevitable, who is to blame? The person who caused it, or the person who knew it was coming and allowed it to happen. Many stories suggest a grim conclusion. The moment time travel becomes possible, morality becomes situational. Ethics bends under the weight of causality. At its deepest level, time travel confronts us with our discomfort with uncertainty. We want the future to be knowable, predictable, correctable. But these stories warn us what that desire costs. A universe with time travel is rarely hopeful. It is orderly, efficient, and indifferent. Time does not reward intention. It enforces structure. Perhaps this is why time travel remains fictional. Not because it is impossible, but because a universe that allows it may be one we would not want to live in. In the end, time travel stories are not about time. They are about control, regret, responsibility, and the human need to believe that our actions matter. Whether time is fixed or flexible, one truth remains. We only experience it moving forward. And that may be the universe's greatest mercy. If you've enjoyed venturing with us through the unknown tonight, make sure to like and subscribe so you never lose your way in the next episode.